Come on in, guys, because it's time for another episode of Outwatch, a Survivor Rewatch podcast, and we're coming at you,
boom, Sonic the Hedgehog style.
Lightning fast, faster than the blue blur. If you listen to this podcast, you're going to leave saying,
I am genuinely impressed.
Because we are so knowledgeable and funny. My name is Alex, and here on Outwatch, we rewatch and then podcast about previous seasons of Survivor, the best show on television. And right now, we're in season 28, Cagayan, on episode 8. I am joined by 3 of my friends, 2 of whom have never watched the season, and 1 who kind of watched it and doesn't remember much of it. And they will be taking this journey along with us. In today's episode, the immunity challenge is a very unique one in that it is a basic memory puzzle, which got me thinking, folks, what random easy game on paper, if it were to find its way into a Survivor challenge and you just happen to be on that season of Survivor, would be your worst nightmare, the thing you would least like to see? Adam, welcome to Outwatch.
So glad to be here.
Hey, what game would that be for you?
Do you remember like times tables, like the math test that were times?
Yes.
Yeah, that would be my doom. I can't do math quickly. It's just not a thing.
What's 4 times 8?
32.
It is 32.
That was my answer and you stole it.
It is 32.
I didn't say I couldn't do math, just I can't do it quickly.
Well,
Emily does it quickly but incorrectly, I guess.
Which is better though?
That's the question.
at least I feel confident about it.
Yeah. Confidence is 90% of the adult world. That's why
Right.
it doesn't matter.
Right.
Every middle schooler and high schooler listening to this, just remember that. Confidence is everything. Knowledge is nothing. Trump's president.
Great. Emily, welcome to Outwatch.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for having me.
Hey, what easy game would be disaster for you?
Yeah, I think we just experienced it.
Also times tables?
It's math. I don't know if there were any games about geometry, but
Probably
that's
Duck, Duck,
also
Goose.
really horrible. Ooh, yeah, I hate that game.
You're real slow too.
Yep, that stresses me out a lot.
Snelson.
Nelson, that's what they call me.
Why is
Because
that?
I'm slow like a snail.
Yes.
And my last name is Nelson. Hence.
Freeze tag. What if there was a giant game of freeze tag?
Today, for immunity, we're playing freeze tag.
I can
Tony's
see them
like-
playing like Red Rover or something. It's just violent enough.
That would be so great.
Which tribe wants it more? Red Rover, send that immunity necklace on over.
I would call it something like to do with the theme of the show, though. They wouldn't call it Red Rover. I don't know what they call it.
How do you think
Red
Red
Crab.
Rover would work out on Survivor Crab Walk?
That would be the best. That'd be so good. How would they link arms?
That would be the first tribal immunity challenge for sure.
It's happening right now.
Hey, Scott, welcome to Outwatch.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Hey, what game would be really bad for you if it was on Survivor?
Besides the one that we will talk about here, which I tried to play along with and did really bad at. The one that comes to mind is like, where's Waldo kind of stuff. Like, find the difference here or find this, like that kind of stuff stresses me out. Like, I hate being put on the spot like that, and it would just stress me out, I think.
Yeah.
I want like a Where's Jeff? And they just have a bunch of guys in cargo shorts and a blue button-up shirt.
Yep.
Or like
find the bloomin' onion in
In the GMC
I tell you what, this is harder than finding a bloomin' onion in a GMC Envoy.
If any of us make it on Survivor, that has to be a quote. That
You're just saying like every single confessional to where the producers are like, shut up. We're not using that. Stop saying it.
I'll never let it go.
Everyone will be like, is this like a cultural thing? Like, where you're from? Do you guys just say this?
Oh yeah, totally. Midwest is like a common
Midwest.
phrase. All your Midwest viewers will know what we're talking about. For me, it would be like word searches. Bad at word searches.
Word searches. Let's do a word search challenge, Alex.
You would win. Also, like things like Connect 4 or Tic Tac Toe. You know, that is kind of the same genre of game. Pretty bad at those too.
Basic strategy.
Yeah, right. Don't actually. You know what? I have the answer. If Settlers of Catan was on freaking Survivor, I'm out. I'm handing Jeff my buff right then and there. Jeff.
Wow, you're quitting.
Yeah, because I effing hate this game, Jeff. My friends Ben and Amy made me hate it forever.
A lot of people want to be on this show. You're going to quit over that. Get out.
I was having a game night with Ben and Amy on Wednesday, and Amy was like, "Do you have Catan?" And I said, "No, because the game is the devil."
It ruins friendships.
I thought you did have it.
No.
Oh, well, that's probably for the best.
Well, let's go ahead and take a trip to Tree Mail and remind everybody what happened in episode 8 of Survivor Cagayan. We get back to Tribe, and for the second straight episode, someone is fired up about what happened. This time it's Tony. Even though he didn't get voted out, really was not in serious danger. He is fighting mad about being on the receiving end of 4 votes last tribal council, to which he says,
I probably pooped on myself.
I missed that.
No, the thing that got me about that tirade is he said something about
I love that clip.
He said something about this is the second time in a row, 2 times in a row it happened, and he was not on the chopping block last tribal council. Like Jeffra was. So I don't know where he's getting that.
Yes, you're right. I think he got a vote.
I don't think he did. I feel like they were pretty united.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. That's the only time he's gotten votes in post
He just
merge.
flipped out about
Yeah,
it.
he did.
Yeah, that's weird. I didn't notice that.
Anyway,
It really triggered him, such
Really
that
I probably pooped on myself.
I definitely pooped on myself.
just like the casualness that he delivers this.
I probably pooped on myself.
I'm gonna be so sad if Tony ever gets voted off because he's such a great just character.
Oh my god! And like the phrase "pooped on myself," I've never heard it that way. I hear "pooped myself." I never pooped on myself. That sounds deliberate. Like you're aiming your shot. Anyway, we've talked enough about pooping on oneself. Tony tries to stir up the majority group here by telling LJ that Wu has an idol, and then further putting out the story that LJ is gunning for Wu as a result of this misinformation. At the reward challenge, the winner gets a spa day, and the winners are Tony, Jeremiah, and Spencer. I don't know about y'all, but when we started talking about spas, all I could think about were the shower shots in store. And
So
we
excited.
have so much to talk about when we get there. During that reward, not without consequence, is who wins that, because Tony ends up with Jeremiah and Spencer, who are both on the other side of the numbers. And on the reward, he kind of pitches to the two of them that, hey, I may need you guys to orchestrate a move, perhaps sooner rather than later. And they both seem to be pretty up for it. Back at camp, Tasha tries to talk strategy with LJ, tries to make an attempt to kind of break up that number and weasel in there. But LJ is not having it. He just kind of stands her up as she's walking by the beach, and LJ is not going to join her. At the immunity challenge, this is where we've got our memory tiles challenge, and LJ falls just short to Tasha, who wins her first individual immunity because she has the superior memory. Back at the camp, Tony continues to spread this word that LJ wants to vote Wu out, which is all predicated on a lie and not very true in and of itself. Starts to rustle things up and see if he can gather enough votes to vote LJ out, one of his tightest alliance members, someone who played an idol on him. He's ready to take a swing at. At Tribal Council, after Tony has done all he can to get as many votes as he can, he shows up and unveils his bag of tricks, which don't really result in anything happening at this tribal. We'll see if they play into things later, but he shows the whole group his bag, and the tricks therein will remain a secret. The vote comes out 5-3-1 with the 5 landing on LJ, making him blindsided out of the game. The majority group was going to split their votes 3-3 on LJ and Jeremiah. On Jeremiah and Spencer. And 2 of those people who were going to vote for Spencer, along with the previous minority, choose to vote for LJ instead, giving him enough votes to send him packing, taking advantage of that vote split that was coming down the pipeline. And so out of nowhere, LJ is blindsided. He's sent packing. He's the 3rd member of the jury. And Scott, you're down another guy.
I know, these 2 episodes were not kind to me.
Rough luck for RNGesus.
Yeah, we're hurting right now, man. We are hurt. Are we down to one? Am I down to one person?
You're down to a single Tony.
Ah, man.
I mean, Tony's larger than life, though.
So really, I've got like 2 people.
Yeah.
Okay.
I probably pooped on myself.
When I saw that he was all you had left. All right.
You do have 2 people. Have the construction worker and the police officer.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've got whichever version of Tony is existing in his split personality mind.
I love his like reasoning for why loyalty is important as a construction worker, because
I loved this story.
Your tools are gone. And it's like, what?
Someone may take your tools, Jeff.
You turn your back for 1 minute, someone takes your screwdriver. Yeah, I found that to be so funny. He's like, quick brain, what's a construction worker story? People steal your tools.
Anything about like, I don't know, safety or working up high. Like
Right.
There's just nothing.
Yeah,
Someone may take your tools.
that was wonderful. So a lot happened this episode. It's one of the biggest pure blindsides so far this season, I would say. And it will have ramifications, to be sure, about how the rest of this game shakes out. What was y'all's favorite moment from this episode? Scott, do you have any that you'd like to share?
Really, I was just kind of interested in Tony's line of thinking throughout this entire episode.
Uh-huh.
I can't think of like any one moment in particular, but I was really intrigued by like why he felt the need to go after LJ, especially like after you said, like after LJ stuck his neck, like played his idol on him and all this stuff. And then like how he went about it. Like I just kind of laughed at the whole thing because like he just literally made something up, got LJ to bite his, like take the bait, and then just like turned around and said, "Oh yeah, man, LJ's coming after you."
Yeah.
I'm like, what are you doing? But I mean, it worked out for him, but geez.
It worked out for him this episode. We'll see if that, how that plays out, though, because he had people like Trish, for example, didn't vote alongside him because she was not necessarily on board with that. And she is one of, if not his tightest ally. We'll see how that, if it does blow up in his face. Ultimately, it was Tony and Wu, along with Spencer, Jeremiah, and Tasha, that voted LJ out.
I really love when LJ floats the idea of splitting the vote
Yeah, can we talk through that?
Because
I'm so
yes,
confused.
that made no sense.
Okay, so
What they said was, we're going to split our vote so that way it doesn't matter if someone flips. They didn't say they were afraid of an idol. They said they were afraid of someone flipping. So instead of being a strong 6, what they did was they turned themselves into a 3 against a minority 3, which means only one person needed to flip to turn into the majority.
is that what he said, that they split because they were afraid of someone's flipping?
Yes.
Really?
It made no sense.
Yeah, that doesn't make sense.
Like, if they were like afraid that someone was going to play an idol, which I mean, like Spencer's the only one who might have had an idol. Jeremiah didn't have an idol. It's dumb to think that he might have. So like Jeremiah was a safe bet. It made no sense to split the vote. It made none.
You could give the argument that even if you're like sure Spencer has one, that there's the chance that he plays it on someone to, shake things up, like we kind of talked about last episode. So that's maybe a logical, reasonable reason to split the votes. But yeah, if you're afraid of someone jumping ship, that's not a reason to split the votes.
That whole thing just made no sense to me. Like, you made it easier to be overwhelmed.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
I didn't catch
because
that.
you broke your numbers down to equal with your minority party.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not a good time to split your votes.
Yeah, the big thing from this episode, of course, was LJ getting blindsided. Tony definitely spearheads this move, orchestrates the whole thing. You hear a little bit of his reasoning. He says that he recognizes that LJ is another smart, strong player, that because Tony is thinking, man, I probably need to get rid of LJ, he assumes that LJ is probably thinking the same thing about Tony, because he's giving him the benefit of the doubt that he's a smart player too.
Yeah, and what we learned is that's very wrong.
Dude, one of the things that surprised me so much this episode is how so many players are talking about how much they like trust Tony.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's crazy. Like, it speaks so much to his social game, that he, as this completely chaotic person, has, convinced people that he's trustworthy.
It's because he's a cop construction worker.
Nothing says trustworthy like a justice bringing cop who also does construction.
He builds justice.
Not really sure.
There it is.
So the big question is, was this the right move for Tony? Was it smart for Tony at this juncture in the game to swing on and vote out one of his strongest allies, someone who played an idol for him, someone who this episode talks about how much he trusts and is loyal to Tony? Was this a good move?
So I was thinking through this while we were watching it, and I was thinking, why does he have to rock the boat right now? He's got the numbers. He can just pick people off from the other side. But I think at the same time, I understand, and I know he was very paranoid too, which probably played into it, but I understand that he's like, we're just waiting for something to happen at this point, for something to be shaken up. And I think he was just trying to get in front of that. And, if he had just waited it out, maybe LJ would have started a new alliance and voted him out, so, which is what Tasha was trying to do, right? Was get him on her side and vote out Tony. So I guess I understand why he's crazy. Like, his choices make no sense to me. I guess I kind of understand why he did this. But at the same time, like we said with Trish, she was not made aware of this at all. And she is arguably his biggest ally. So he's burnt some bridges, maybe.
Yeah, I think he made this move like an episode too early. I think there's still too much game to play to make this move. He still has the minority group to help swing numbers next episode. It's not as many, but it's still the minority group. And he's not walking over there to them as a minority, part of that. Like right now, he walked over there with Wu. So it's him and Wu, and then 3 other people. Like, he put himself into a minority situation if they say strong through 5. Whereas if he waited one more episode, it was him, Wu, and then he could talk to, I don't know, he could talk to Trish, be like, hey, I think now's the time for us to switch it up, make our move, get rid of LJ because he's really strong, and we have these other two. And then, like, no matter which way they go, he's pretty much in the majority.
So let's run this out like for a next episode, right? Let's say that they kind of go with the default plan here and they vote Jeremiah out. Okay. LJ's still in the game. We're down to 9. And Tony decides now at 9, it's time for him to move. Who do you think, and assuming there's like a faction of Tony and a faction of LJ, who do you think is able to mass and 5 of the votes to vote the other one out? Tony's probably got Woo, right? Probably got Trish.
I got Woo. Tony's got Trish. LJ has Jeffra, which leaves Cass.
You got Cass, Spencer, Tasha.
Brain. That's it, right? Yeah.
Yeah, you got the brains.
You got brains again.
Yeah, now the brains are back in a spot. Are they choosing LJ or Tony?
I think that they go with LJ.
You think?
Because then they're a majority.
Yeah, they're a majority in the majority.
Yeah.
Yep.
So maybe by that logic, Tony made the right move here, right?
You're right. Maybe this is the right time.
I think this is one of the like central questions in Survivor, right? Is not only it's like knowing the move you have to make, but also doing it at the correct time. And like I think Tony's really astute in thinking not only like, okay, what's the best move for me to make, but also like, what is the best move for LJ to make? It's probably to vote me out. And so since I'm going to assume that LJ is going to act within his best interest, I'm going to assume that he's going to want to vote me out. So I'm going to want to vote him out before he votes me out. But yeah, you don't want to do it too soon and blow the whole thing up. But you don't want to wait too late because then maybe there's no move to make because you're out, you know?
I think there's also a third component, though, in that you have to do it with the right people. And I don't feel like Tony did it with the right people. Like, Tony brought Woo in, who is apparently loyal to him, but hasn't really been loyal to him, like, the entire game.
Yeah, I think you've seen it show up the last couple episodes. But at first, you're right. He was more like the cliff side.
Right. And that's, you know, and so I think he's loyal in the sense that he feels safe with Tony, not that he's like, yeah, Tony's like my guy, like I'm going all the way with him. Like I think it's just like, yeah, it's a good place to be. So that's the only reason he has Woo. He's leaving Trish, who I think is a stronger ally.
Yeah.
Except now that he just like played a blindside against her, basically. I don't know that he did it with the right people. Like I think that's what it's always going to come down to for me.
But you got to keep in mind also, like in this episode, he's got Spencer and Jeremiah at that position where they are their most desperate.
Yeah.
Versus like kind of like what we talked about, or like we brought up the scenario, like next episode, all of a sudden they've got options, right? So this episode, they'd have no option. They're like,
and you're definitely right about that.
They're like, cool, we get an out. We get to stay another 3 days. Cool, vote Tony. We'll do whatever you want. So now like he gets to take out LJ without, you know, having to deal with that, I guess.
Yeah, this is really a best case scenario, especially for like a Spencer, because he gets a power player out who he's not aligned with. He gets to hold on to his idol, you know, still doesn't have to play that. And now he's got like a leg in with some of the more powerful players in the game, you know?
Yeah, I mean, he gets to keep everyone that he's loyal to. He's adding in some other people. It's this really is best case scenario for Spencer, Tasha, and Jeremiah right now.
Do you think that like these kind of new voting blocks, at least from this episode, will stick? Or do you think this is like a one-off where Tony and we were like, hey, we're going to use you guys for this vote. And then after that, you guys are back to your thing. We've still got our thing. How do you think it plays out from here?
I think this is hard to tell because I just keep thinking of the other 3 in that big alliance who were not made aware of what was happening. So I'll be interested to know how they react.
Yeah. I think on paper, the biggest misstep with this from Tony is not looping Trish into it.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, he's definitely going to clean up after his own mess, after he shit on himself.
I probably pooped on myself.
Yeah.
So that's the big move, the big talking point from this episode. And yeah, it's one of those things that really does kind of shift the dynamics. You've got pretty solidified alliances, one kind of picking the other one off to this point. And so we'll see how this affects the way that those line up going forward. And of course, you know, if you think of other things about this move as we go on, feel free to jump in with them. Tony is very paranoid at the beginning, and it's what kind of drives this whole thing. Talk about the merits and the downside of paranoia in a game like Survivor. Is there an upside to feeling paranoid?
I think there's a good thing to it. Like, you shouldn't blindly trust anybody in Survivor because the game can change so quickly. Like, at the end of the day, you should always assume that, you know, like, I think it's been said, like, once you're comfortable in Survivor, that's when you're screwed, right? That's when you're about to get taken out. But so there's also kind of like Tony was kind of on that line where you can also swing to a bad point too, though, I think.
Yeah, I mean, if LJ had been a little bit more paranoid, he might still be in the game.
Yeah, agreed.
I think there definitely is that side of it that's like it keeps you attuned to what people could be doing to ruin your game.
The thing is, you're only paranoid if you're a strong player.
You think?
Spencer's not paranoid. Like, people are gunning for him because he's not a part of the majority alliance. Like, that's just his state of being.
Yeah, I gotcha.
Whereas, like, Tony, he's got an alliance, so he's paranoid about it.
I see.
So it's, I don't know, it's kind of it's like a healthy amount of skepticism is probably good.
Yeah. I would agree with that. And I think keeping, like, I mean, you've got so much time out there, right? I think that probably a helpful mental exercise is to continually be putting yourself in the shoes of these other people you're playing with and thinking, all right, what should they do? You know, what would be the best thing for them to do? And figure out if that is like counter to you and then go from there. Let's talk about the spa sequence. We talked a little bit previously, especially with your tribe name, Emily, that perhaps the best 1-for-1 equivalent of Dara this season is Jeremiah, because he too is bad at Survivor, talks very little on confessionals, is from the South, and is attractive. Guess who we get a shower shot from?
Yeah.
Jeremiah. He is the new Dara. I was really hoping for that.
Have to do the shower shot.
Huh?
You always have to do the shower shot.
It's got to be there.
What are the odds that the shower shot shows up in his in memoriam at the end?
Quite small, I would say.
Jeremiah shower scene.
That was legitimately one of the best parts of the in memoriam during that season. We get the shower shot from Tara.
This one was far less artistic than the last seasons that we've done, though.
I think Jeremiah's just less artistic.
He's a handsome guy.
He is. It's also it was like this weird shower on a beach, and there was like a conversation happening. So Jeremiah kind of kept like sticking his head out, like, "Oh, what are we talking about?"
Yeah. Are y'all talking about vote me out? I don't want you to vote me out. I would very much like it, sirs, if you didn't vote me out. I'm Jeremiah. Here's the thing. I was on the wiki here because, you know, I'm doing my research, making sure my facts are straight. It really changes the way that you view some of these people when you, like, get their age, like, from when this aired. Frickin' Morgan was 21 when she was on this. Jeffra was 22. Spencer's 21.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
And now, like, especially last episode, it's like, for as mean as they were to Morgan, it's like, she's 21.
Right.
She's a child. How old do you think Wu is this season?
28.
He's a 62-year-old man. No, I bet he's 27.
I'll go
Emily-
with 29.
29. Ding, ding, ding. Champion.
We were close.
While we're on that subject, one of my favorite things that Tony said this episode was something about I'm not a threat. I'm a 40-year-old balding guy.
Yeah.
I love how he brought up balding, like that affected whether he was a threat.
Right.
Yeah. He's 39. So
Close enough.
a little exaggerating.
There's not a lot of fashion happening on this season.
No, there's not.
Yeah.
I do still enjoy the color coordination that the original tribes have with the purple and the green and the orange.
Hey, what was your thought on this immunity challenge? We had the memory tiles. A good challenge or a bad challenge? Also, before we get into that, how funny was it when Trish got like out on the second color in like
Yeah.
It's bad.
a 4-color
Yeah.
puzzle?
It's bad luck.
And Jeff's like, Trish, you either just won the challenge or you're the first one out.
I thought that was pretty insulting. He's like, what do you think it is? She's like, I lost.
Yup.
Sure is. Sit down.
I feel like this was a good challenge in the sense, in like the terms of Survivor. It was a good challenge. In terms of watching it, I don't know.
Boring.
Yeah, it wasn't a fun challenge to watch, but it was definitely an interesting game to force starving people to play.
This isn't fun for me right now.
There it is.
I have to be honest.
I feel like this would have been a good reward challenge.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, I think that's true.
Yeah, it feels like there's less on the line, you know, with this sort of thing.
Yeah.
It's not like as fair, perhaps, but we actually did this challenge at my own Survivor production, Outlast. You can catch that on YouTube. And I pulled the scene right from Jeff's hat when the first person got out. I did that. I said that same thing. But it was really funny. She was like, wait, did I win? I was like, no, you're out.
Oh.
Almost LJ is a color card away here from winning this challenge and avoiding this eventual blindside. He just pulled the wrong card there at the end. He was the next to last person in.
I was so glad though that Tasha won because I've been rooting for her for 2 weeks now to win the challenge.
Yeah.
And she did it. It was great.
Two very different challenge styles that she's been quite competitive in both of.
Yeah.
One of the big things I think that Tony did do well in this this giant scheme he's cooked up is I feel like you didn't really see him saying, hey, we need to vote out LJ, vote for LJ. You know, what he did say was, hey, I heard LJ say this, and then let the other people come to the conclusion of we should vote out LJ, you know? I think that's a real master stroke as you're trying to rally the votes in any direction, is to not make it seem as though you're like dictating it. People are always a lot more inclined to do something if they think that they came up with it. So leading people into the direction you want them to go. I noticed that I think with Wu and yeah.
I think Wu is also just sort of excited to make plays in the game or to have like agency in the game. So I think if you give him an opportunity to do something, he's kind of just more likely to do it.
Yeah.
I would have been very interested if someone outside of their alliance approached Wu to see if they could get him to flip. Because I think everyone saw him as very strong in that alliance, but I don't know that was true.
Interesting. Do you think that maybe they missed their chance on that, though?
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, it seems like he's pretty solidly entrenched now.
It's also, yeah, I mean, and that's the other like half of this coin where it's like, if you're not the person like driving the moves, it's really nice to just be there and be like, yeah, I'm safe. So like, why would I flip? So,
Survive in advance. Let's take this at like the perspective of a couple other people. Like, what about Wu? Do you think it's the right move for Wu to go along with this plan? Or should he have been adamant and said, like, you know what, Tony, we're not doing this time. Let's stick with the normal vote.
Well, what does Wu gain from doing this? So he gets out a strong competitor.
Tony did tell him that, like, the target was on him from LJ. Right.
So in his mind, he got out a strong competitor that was targeting him.
Right.
But also, it kind of makes it easier to break away from that alliance now, because he's not the one who's like flipped. I mean, he did flip, but everyone blames Tony for it. So now Wu can kind of make whatever move he wants because the alliance imploded because of Tony.
Freeze him up. Yeah, especially if he really did believe that what, you know, Tony said about LJ is true. Like, of course you want to take that person out if you're Wu. Okay, what about Trish? Trish was given this plan by Tony. Remember, he talks with her and says, hey, I think that we should vote LJ out. He's up to something. And she was on the fence about it. And I imagine the way that conversation ended was them saying, you know, her not budging on it and Tony saying, okay, I'll wait. But then he goes and does it anyway. If you're Trish, would it have been better to try and blow this thing up and not just say, okay, whatever. She probably assumed it wasn't happening, but she didn't say anything to anyone else. Would it have been better for Trish to be like, hey, guys, Tony's going crazy. He's trying to vote out LJ. Let's do something different here.
I think the thing that she's missing is like that core alliance. Like these three are going to the final three. Because right now, as it stands, it's these six are going to the final six.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of like the extent of the conversations that we've seen. So instead of Tony looking at her and saying, hey, like you, me, and Wu, we're final three, we're ride or die all the way. I think now is the time to make this move. So that way they can't make this move against us.
They do have a top 5 baby.
Top 5 baby.
Can't forget about the top 5 baby.
Yeah. I think it's just that. I think it's like Trish is like, this is a strong position to be in. We're in the majority. We'll deal with whatever comes after we're done being the majority.
Yeah. And I think that's a good point. If he would have just been honest with her, I think that could have made the game clearer and helped everyone deal with the repercussions of what happened at Tribal.
I don't know. Trish is such a strange player too. She just kind of goes with whatever feels good.
I think she's really skilled, and you've seen some instances where she like shows that off, but just probably because of her like character and her lack of like dynamicness, you know, we haven't seen a lot from her for a while.
I think she's good in the sense that she can make a strong alliance, but I think she has trouble with the big plays and like blindsiding people because she has so much loyalty.
Sure. Yeah.
I mean, she is the person who chose the rice over the idol clue. You know, it's just, I think Trish's downfall is that it's hard for her to like really hurt other players in the game that she's aligned herself with already.
Yeah. I was going to say, unless they like, don't like her.
I don't like her.
Lindsay.
Yeah.
She definitely knew that something was going on when Tony was talking with her. Like she did not believe what he was saying.
This could also just be, this is just what success brings you. It's
I probably
secure.
pooped on myself.
Oh, yeah, you're right. Success. Crazy thing, huh?
Yeah. Other people in that alliance, though, Jeffra and LJ really should have made moves during this tribal. I think this was their time to make moves. Like they're in the minority in this. Like they're a solid 2 in a 6-person alliance.
Yeah.
So it's 2 against the 3, Tony, Trish, and Wu, and then Cass, who also, if she wants to be the big move player, this is the time to make that move too.
Yeah. Yep. Yep. I think you're right that you're starting to see the rubber meet the road. There's a lot of talk about it in this episode. If there's a 6 here, but within the 6, there's like, 5 people that are going to lose. And so positioning yourself within that group to win. And yeah, I think Tony is the first person to really think in that way. and he fires the opening salvo, so to speak. And it really will, going forward, it'll be interesting to see how the reaction to that is. You know, you could have people recognize it as a good move, target Tony as a result, or even be hurt by it and target him as a result, or they could accept his explanation, let it be water under the bridge. He could roll with this new 5 that he's put together. There's so many ways that it could go, that are all kind of, you know, instigated by this move right here.
Here's the other problem that Tony has in like a final situation. I'm sitting here just kind of thinking, if Tony is in the final 3, like who does he lose to? Just thinking like he's such a solid player because he made these big moves, he made these decisions. I think it's kind of hard to argue that he wasn't a good player. The problem is Sarah was apparently aligned with him and he voted her out.
Mm-hmm.
LJ definitely aligned with him and he voted him out and like was loyal to him.
Yeah.
I have a hard time thinking that those 2 people vote for him. Jeffra is definitely going to feel burned by this. Trish might feel burned by this if she's on the jury.
Right.
I think Tony has really great moves here, but there's so many people in this season that are so committed to like the loyalty aspect. I don't know. I think Tony has a hard time winning this if he continues eliminating players this way.
I think, what he's got to bank on as he's like putting himself towards, obviously he wants to end up in this way, is that they see the game and recognize the game, right?
Game recognized game.
Game recognized game. But you're right. Like there's, you know, someone like LJ is probably going to be pretty hurt, you know, someone like Sarah definitely hurt, you know, as he spearheads the blind side of his close alliances. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's probably going to leave some bad tastes in people's mouths. All right, who were our MVPs from this episode? Scott, do you want to award your MVP first?
Yeah, I guess I'm going to go with, I don't know, the easy thing is to say Tony, but also like I feel like
it's up in the air.
Tasha gets a good, like had a good episode. She won, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, I think that she does well. I also feel like Spencer and Jeremiah did well. Like took advantage of a good opportunity to stay alive. So I will kind of not vote for Tony, even though he was kind of the big star of this episode.
So who is your vote?
I'm gonna go with Tasha.
Tasha
She won the immunity.
I tried to make moves with LJ, man. Just had to take a walk with her.
Right? Yep. That's another thing. LJ could have maybe saved himself.
LJ had the opportunity.
Yeah.
He really did.
But he was just like, no, I'm good.
Chose loyalty, and the person he chose to be loyal to orchestrated his demise.
Yeah. Like you totally could see.
That's a hard juror to put on the jury.
Yeah. Like imagine instead, you know, Tasha and LJ, you know, they talk a little bit. Tasha gets Spencer and Jeremiah on board. You know, LJ gets Jeffra on board. That's his window. But Tony was the one to jump through that window like the Kool-Aid man himself. Oh, yeah.
I probably pooped on myself.
Emily, who's your MVP?
I'm definitely going with Tasha. I'm very excited that she won the challenge, and she definitely called this thing that went down at Tribal with LJ.
Adam?
You know, I think I went into this thinking that Tony made a bad move, and I think after discussing it, he probably made the best move that he could have made right now. So I'm gonna go with Tony.
Cool.
How mature of you, Adam, to be willing to change your mind?
I can admit that I'm wrong. That's okay.
Boom! Sonic the Hedgehog style.
Sonic the Hedgehog 2. Yes.
With a chili dog.
That was my Sonic.
And the Sonic animated series was so good. We need a reboot of that.
Wait, did you say it was so good?
Yeah, it was.
Dog, have you watched it recently?
Yeah, I watched it.
Oh my
The cartoon
goodness.
was awesome.
It's bad.
Oh man, can't believe you.
know
Live action Sonic the Hedgehog movie.
Wow. How?
I'll watch
For the
that
first-
stuff, dude.
CGI.
Well, no, isn't there a Sonic the Hedgehog movie with Jim Carrey playing Robotnik coming out?
Yeah. Yeah, have you seen the posters for the Sonic the Hedgehog movie?
I haven't.
You need to look it up because it's
Is it
wild.
live action?
No, but the CGI Sonic is horrifying.
This
Just
is
look
what I
up
mean.
like Sonic the Hedgehog movie poster and I'm sure you'll find it.
Maybe they could
Oh,
just use a real hedgehog.
That would be preferred, honestly.
oh my gosh, Ben Schwartz is the...
I like the legs, the hairy legs. I'm
Yeah,
not
they
into
made
it.
Really, well, not even fuzzy, just hairy. You're
Yeah.
right. Yikes.
Wow, this is something, y'all.
I saw something that was it was Will Smith as the genie photoshopped onto movie Sonic the Hedgehog's body. It was pretty funny.
You know what really bugs me, honestly, the most about this, like more so than anything, it's that his hands are so small, and then his eyes, he has two eyes instead of like the one big eye with the weird brow that comes down the middle.
Yes.
Mm.
Yeah, it's weird. Here's someone took the poster and put that like creepy sad fox in tennis shoes on it instead of the Sonic the Hedgehog. You know, we've gone a long way from Survivor here. Let's wrap this up. Let's take a quick look at our fantasy Survivor situation here. This was another huge episode for Adam's tribe.
Oh,
Earlobes?
Adam, you gained another 8 points today, led by a 3 from Tasha.
Sure.
Emily, you gained 1.5 points. Everybody on your tribe survived, but none of them voted correctly, which is not good for your point total. And Scott, you had a strong showing from your only member in Tony, who was not voted out this episode. He got you 3 points, but LJ got you 0. And so the standings as of this episode, in third place, Scott's RN Jesus team with 27. In second place is Emily's Dara's Second Wind tribe with 28.5. And in a commanding lead at this point, 39 points, the Earlobes tribe, a full 10.5 points ahead now.
Unexpected.
yeah.
Very, very unexpected.
After a tough start, really has
2 weeks.
seized it these last 2 episodes.
16.5 points these last 2 weeks.
Coming on strong.
Yeah.
I'm coming on strong. What's our reward for this one?
I was
We
just
still need to
wondering.
figure that out.
I'm already wearing my tie-dye tank top.
Yes.
Cliff Robinson jersey.
I'm into that.
Honestly,
If we
pretty
can-
tight.
If we
How
could
hard
find one.
To find.
I bet we could find one.
I'm trying to think if anything else jumps out.
You get a hard hat that's with like Tony written on it.
Yeah. Or like a cop's hat or a badge or something.
No, just put a badge inside the hard hat, so it's like, hey, I'm not a cop.
I ain't a cop.
Hey, I am a cop.
I am a cop.
Yeah.
Nearing the home stretch here of Survivor Cagayan, and that's why you should subscribe to our feed so that you do not miss a single episode, because the action only gets more intense from here on out. Thank you for listening today, and may the odds be ever in your favor.
I probably pooped on myself.